But we're also very glad to have Ashley Friedlein here from econsultancy. Many of you know Ashley joined us as a non-exec director about September last year, which is fantastic. And Ashley's going to talk to you about the future of digital, what's going to happen over the next few years. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Ashley.
Thank you, Jonathan. So, what this probably does not call for, given you've got drinks and you're standing up, is a 40-slide PowerPoint deck, which is what is here. But don't worry, I'm going to try and keep it brief, maybe 15-20 minutes. And it's retail or e-commerce focused. And I suppose just my thoughts on where this is going. And it's really exciting because in econsultancy, we work across all industry sectors, and B2C and B2B. And it's pretty much always, when people are looking for best in class or world class, it's almost always actually retail and e-commerce that they turn to, because I think in retail and e-commerce things move so quickly, and that, you know, day-to-day trading and slim margins and fast turnaround, fast change. It's a really dynamic environment. And so a lot of the skills, and I think it's one of the interesting things obviously with Cranberry Panda, people who've got those retail kind of skills are super valuable across all sectors. You know, banks now have got money again, they're employing like crazy. Holiday companies, say B2B, everything. So just a few thoughts. I mean, the first obvious point here, I suppose, is the speed of change. And large corporates in particular are worried by this because they tend to move quite slowly. They feel they're being eaten alive by all these nimble, agile startups. And can they keep up? This was the new CEO of Sainsbury's towards the end of last year, talking about just how fast stuff is changing and can they keep up. You know, Tesco obviously going through various convulsions at the moment. So that the speed of customer behaviour change, most evidently through digital, and probably most interestingly through mobile, arguably, at the moment. And when, you know, I don't know how many years ago now, 5 to 10 years ago, I always thought when you were looking for the most exciting stuff happening in digital, being in the UK, you typically expect to look to America. So obviously the big tech companies, the Googles and Facebooks and Twitters coming out of there, lots of exciting tech, broadband adoption happened faster in the US than in the UK, etc. But actually now, I'm finding that a lot of the most exciting, most interesting, most disruptive stuff is actually coming from Asia, more so perhaps than America. And of course we all know about the whole the sort of macroeconomic shift in the power towards Asia. And so it's quite interesting to look to what's happening in some of these countries. South Korea has the highest smartphone penetration of any country in the world. So when you're looking at thinking, well, you know, how are people going to shop in the future, or how phones might play a part in that, really interesting to see what's happening there. Mobile commerce or mobile shopping is booming, massively correlated with levels of high levels of broadband penetration and smartphone penetration. There's an interesting, McKinsey had this thing recently, which I thought was fascinating on this, of mobile shoppers, so people buying via their phones. 13% of them do not shop at all in store. You kind of think, well, yeah, I kind of get that, I suppose, it's the digital thing. But almost more interestingly, of them, 53%, over half, don't shop online, as in they don't go to their sort of desktop PCs. And this is the sort of classic, mostly this is the busy mum persona, who is, you know, why would you go to your computer and fire it up and turn it on when you can just buy via your phone? So it's not about, you know, digital eating offline or stores, as I think some people maybe have thought, and now it's about omni-channel. You know, here we're looking at a kind of a behaviour which is radically different, where that is impulse shopping. You look at all the metrics, their consideration time on the phone is much less. They look at far fewer sites in terms of their due diligence before buying. Totally different form of buying, and therefore the marketing, the experience that you'd have to deliver to cater to that, very different. And so, you know, there's a lot of talk about mobile first, So I was sort of looking forward and wondering, well, how big a portion of people are going to be mobile-only shoppers? And for those, what the nature of the experience you're going to provide, how very different are the marketing going to do, how different is that going to be? Also, speaking of Asia, the other big change, apart from the disruptive force, apart from the change in consumer behaviour, largely because of digital channels, is business models and international competition, globalisation generally. And the really interesting, fascinating one, I think, is Alibaba, bigger than eBay and Amazon put together, which has stated that it's coming west. And the Chinese are coming, and I can tell you, we've run events in Shanghai for the last 3 years, this is a mildly exciting and completely terrifying thought. I mean, and how is this going to change how companies, retailers can even compete? Forget necessarily just of digital and offline. So there's these broad, interesting challenges about business models, around globalization and consumer behavior. On digital marketing, we asked about 4,000 marketers, digital marketers replied to this, which things are you most excited about over the next 5 years? And we gave them these 8 to choose from. And here, this is probably a bit dense for you to read from anywhere there, but I'll tell you. So 4,000 odd. The top 2 things most exciting, customer experience and personalization. Interestingly, right down here, social. Video, surprisingly low. Marketing automation. But the other thing that's quite interesting about this is the bluey bars are most exciting for 2015, this year, and the reddy orangey bars are most exciting in 5 years' time. So it's interesting when you get a gap between these two. So if you look at mobile, very interesting now, less interesting in 5 years' time. Customer experience, very, very interesting now, but even more interesting still in 5 years' time. Personalization, even more so. Big data, more so. Content marketing kind of tailing off. So it's interesting when you look at all these fashions and trends and things, you might think social is a big thing, and video is a big thing, and content marketing was all very 2014. But when you think, well, 5 years' time, actually it's like, yeah, we all kind of got that by then, kind of done that. But some things don't go away. And the single biggest thing is this customer experience thing. This is the kind of the one ring to rule them all, really. And if you look at just picking out some areas of customer experience, video obviously and video commerce, lots of retailers have been doing video, this is M&S, for quite a while. Mostly they start off as a way to show their products, to increase conversion rates and things. Often then as a form of marketing, so out onto YouTube, distribution, SEO, social stuff. But what's really interesting now, I think even last month, YouTube added interactive cards. So before in YouTube videos you could add a layer with a kind of click on it. Now increasingly you can add entire almost microsites on top of the video. So what's happening is that the distance between content and transaction is disappearing essentially. And so your shop, your transactional point, can be out on YouTube in this case, or anywhere it's shared on kind of video. Again, that's kind of really interesting in terms of that the point of sale is potentially everywhere, anywhere, on top of video in this case. Payments, of course, seems boring, but of course it's incredibly important. Apple Pay, getting good traction in the US. Starbucks, I think now is in the top, if not the biggest processor of mobile transactions in the world. You can you can pre-buy your coffee, so you paid for it and you just turn up and take it when you arrive. All sorts of stuff happening with biometrics as authentication for payments. So the payments world, very interesting. Social commerce, again, if you think of China, WeChat, which is the sort of Facebook-y meets Twitter, meets pretty much everything platform, owned by Tencent. And there's massive sales go through the WeChat platform. So they've embedded commerce directly, natively into social for a long time now. It's only really just starting to happen in the West on Facebook and Twitter. But I think that would be an interesting space. Omni-channel, multi-channel, integrated 360, whatever you want to call it. Tying up digital and the physical, really interesting. This is La Redoute, a French retailer, but using outdoor billboards, which are posters of old, which are of course turning into screens. I'm sure you'll see on the tube now, going up and down, most of those things are becoming screens. And again, here they can change the advert based on the temperature and the weather. Actually, technically very easy to do. Personalization was that second, that thing. This is kind of interesting because everyone says that personalization is the way forwards. There is evidence to suggest it works, but I don't think many people have really quite cracked it yet, or even quite know what the right kind of offer or personalization is really. So this is sort of one to watch, I think, in the coming years, who does this really well. Finally then, and this is back to Asia, multi-channel is a big buzzword, omni-channel, tying up the digital and the physical, phygital, there's all sorts of buzzwords around it, and I think rightly so, it's a really interesting area. This deal, this was last year in China, where you've got the Wanda, which is China's largest commercial real estate owner, so they own shopping malls and things, like a Westfield type. Baidu, which is the biggest search engine, the Google equivalent, and Tencent, people own WeChat, which is a sort of Facebook-y thing, done this mega deal to completely weave in search and social and content and the physical environment. And when you do that, you can make amazing stuff happen. So the quick summary. Here we go. Business models changing because of changing customer behaviour, because of startups, because of globalisation, big corporates trying to change. We hear a lot of talk about innovation, and we want to be more agile and reactive and nimble and responsive and things. That's quite hard though for large companies. Competing on customer experience. Apple arguably is a great example of what happens when you do customer experience really well. And there's a whole load of areas in which that is being played out. Real-time data. This is all marketing automation, the programmatic stuff, using data to drive marketing, and then this digital and physical stuff. If you want to have a copy of this presentation, there's a kind of useful bunch of examples here. So maybe this is like Blickvert style Argos, real-time advertising, clever stuff we're doing. My clicker can't keep up. Ooh, very interesting personalised video banner ads. My Burberry, you probably all know that one, pretty cool. This physical retargeting using iBeacons, nice. Digital omni-channel, joining up this up. If you want to look at the connected store, this is eBay and Rebecca Minkoff in New York. Just click on this thing, it'll take you to the video. IKEA, this is a bit of an old one, but a good one. Visualizing their products in your home. Walmart in store, it recognises the app when you're in store and gives you all sorts of different stuff. Neiman Marcus, connecting you with the store assistant in store if you're in store. House of Fraser, Peter's here doing all sorts of clever stuff and interesting things up in Aberdeen, I think it is. iBeacon mannequins, Shoe doing some really clever stuff. This is on Oxford Street, which I've been to, where the store salesperson can get the shoe brought to you within 45 seconds without leaving you, so they carry on talking to you. Meanwhile, they just click a thing and sends a request down to the store. Customer service, pricing labels digitally, apps that give you access to product reviews in store, body scanning, obviously, augmented reality, Marriott hotels, transporting newly wedded couples to their honeymoon destinations, in-store kiosk boots, so you can actually tie into your purchase behaviour, delivery stuff, interesting. Jeans company here where they turn up and they wait 15 minutes while you try your jeans on, so if they don't fit you can send them back. This one is between Aldi, Amazon and DHL, so you can get stuff delivered to the car boot of your car. Interesting. Okay, got that? Finally then, I won't go through this, making this stuff happen. This is a dense slide, but I was trying to wrestle, so this is relevant to recruitment. So who is responsible? So if we're saying we've got to create this wonderfully joined up customer experience across all these channels and customer service and marketing and sales and in-store and all this stuff, we've got to work together wonderfully well. How do you actually make that happen? What does that mean for the organisational structure, the roles and responsibilities there? Should e-commerce be separate? Should it be part of marketing? Should there be a chief digital officer? Or, how does that work? This is a difficult, and I suspect this is an unsolved question at the moment. One theory I have though, and starting to see happening, I came up with this org structure where you've got a chief customer officer and customer staff who runs actually all of marketing, all of sales and service. So it's a pretty powerful job role. It's not just marketing. So I just put this out there, and I've started to see, I don't think I can take credit for this, but this is an example. Is anyone from Tesco here? So this is Robin Terrell, who Peter will know, I think. So he was Amazon UK, he's an accountant by background, but Amazon UK, MD, worked for John Lewis, House of Fraser, went to Tesco, became multi-channel director, and then this January he's appointed Chief Customer Officer. Clearly he gets digital and e-commerce, but he's running all of that, but he's also running all of marketing, interestingly. So this is a very powerful position. And arguably, I think this is an interesting experiment, because if you're going to try and join all this stuff up and make it seamless, you kind of need someone to oversee that and have the power to kind of bang their heads together to make this stuff work. And someone who gets digital, obviously, and mobile and all that stuff, but also traditional things as well. So there's a lot of exciting stuff happening. There are a lot of unanswered questions, maybe around organisational design and structures, I think. There's some interesting experiments. And some of that's a bit vague but interesting, which I'll finish on this slide, which I came across recently, on the vague but interesting. Back in March 1989, Tim Berners-Lee, father of the internet, maybe the World Wide Web, sent a proposal to his boss, basically proposing the internet, and it's online, you can go and see it. And his boss just wrote back, scrawled on at the top here, vague but exciting. And we all know what went on to happen after that. So I think we're in a phase which is not necessarily a vague, but maybe unsolved and or emerging, but certainly exciting. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ashley. Hopefully there's some stuff in there that's going to keep you guys busy for the next few years. So we're here obviously to celebrate the launch of our salary survey. And I'm not going to keep you too long. There's food on the way, there's more drinks in the bar behind you, so I'll keep this brief. But there's really the time to thank everybody that took part in the salary survey. There's about 350 people in total, which is our biggest survey to date. Loads of insights, loads of interesting stuff. There's brochures all over the place, so just have a look at it while you're here, have a chat to people, and there's one for everybody to take away with you when you leave tonight as well. Also, I want to thank Dan Barker, who I'm not sure is here yet. Is he not here yet? No, we'll thank him when he comes. But he did all the analysis, all the sort of working out what insights, what trends were happening in the market, and also allowed us to compare and see what was happening last year as well. So there's interesting stuff in there. And it's also not very often, well, if ever actually, I get the chance to publicly thank my team, all the pandas that are here tonight. So put your hand in the air so everyone can see you. Thanks everybody for all the hard work you do. So I just thought I would go through a couple of slides just to highlight a few of the key points that came from the survey, covering two topics. First one, money. There we go. So average salary from everyone surveyed was 51,000, which is up from 40,000 the year before, which is absolutely huge. Nearly 90% of people earn 25 grand or more. The national average salary is 24,000. So I think we're in the right industry. Last year, 71% of people got a pay rise. That's very similar to the year before as well. And 61% of people expect their team to grow this year. So we're definitely in an industry that's buzzing. The next aspect is sex. More appropriately gender, to be honest. There we go. So the makeup is pretty much 50-50. It was 50-50 last year, so a slight shift towards males this year, but nothing significant. And you can see that under £35,000, there are more females than males. And last year there was more, males were definitely earning more money than females. Slight shift this year in that the brackets between 45 to 55 is almost double the amount of females earning that salary, so it's starting to move in an equal direction. There we go, that's right. All the money I saved on a PowerPoint's behind the bar, so yeah. But this is an interesting one. This is kind of what people want from a role. So this is what you need to do to hang on to good staff. and making them feel valued and respected is the absolute key thing. Higher than salary, which is obviously still important, and the opportunity to progress is third. And the last point, that females work less than men. But do they work smarter? That's the question. So on that note, enjoy the night, thank you for coming, and see you soon.